The Sonozaki family. The one to drastically expand its influence after the war was the Sonozaki family. The leader at that time was Sonozaki, who still has that seat today. He was double stuffed. Oryo Sonozaki was grown old, and today you can only catch a glimpse of who she was at the time. From what I've been told, however, she was a leader extolled as the best in history. Having become so old, aside from going out a few times a week for lessons, she spends her time at home in solitude, and seems to leave most of the ceremonial affairs to her heir, Mion. There are different views on why the successor was not her daughter, but her granddaughter, Mion. It's rumored that it has to do with disownment of her daughter and her son-in-law. That uninhabited granddaughter, Mion Sonozaki, still shows no signs of the dignity required of the next leader. However, she does have Sonozaki blood in her veins, and is permitted the name of Demon. She still doubtlessly requires caution and is probably hiding her fangs and claws, as skillfully as the leaders of the past did.
Yes, the postal worker hasn't seen anything either. The Sonozaki house has their seal hanging from their mailbox, so that anyone can stamp their mail or parcels with it or drop it in.
That's rather careless of them. So, when was she last seen?
She was last seen at the Watanagashi opening ceremony greetings. She apparently returned home right after that.
Well, she is pretty old. From what I heard, she goes out a few times a week to take lessons, right? Have you found anything out about that?
Every Monday she goes to the assembly hall to practice the Taisho Goto, but she didn't go this week.
Any calls to see she wasn't going to be there? Has anyone confirmed it?
No, nobody. She apparently takes days off once in a while, so no one thought it was strange.
Tomorrow, why don't we pretend we're at the town hall and call around 10 o'clock? Please figure out whether she's home.
10 o'clock? Got it. Ever since it started to seem more and more like ancient Hanamizawa traditions had something to do with this, he'd been keeping a careful eye on the three families. At this point, the leader of the Kimiyoshi family and the leader of the Furude family had disappeared. There's only one leader left. Oryo Sonozaki, the leader of the Sonozaki family. She was apparently a pretty old woman. Her dignity hasn't waned, but she still has only appeared before people rarely, so it was difficult to confirm where she was at any given time. She, the last leader, hadn't been seen since the day of the Watanagashi. Was she still alive, and well within the Sonozaki main house? Or had she... According to Mion Sonozaki, she had fallen ill and was sleeping it off.
I wonder if she's really sleeping. I'd like to take a look at her face. And her pulse.
You can say that again. Two of them breathed out a big puff of cigarette smoke. Oishi-san, about the search warrants for the Sonozaki main house and the Furude shrine. You think we'll get them? Oishi didn't respond, exhaling another cloud of tobacco smoke, his surroundings now as foggy as his mind.
The Hidden Demon. The inhabitants of Hinamizawa believe that the blood of demons flows in their blood. As such, the character for demon is treated as very sacred. For example, usage of the character demon in names is apparently a right reserved only for the leaders of Kimiyoshi and the Sonozaki families. Case in point, we can see in the current Sonozaki family leader's name, Oryo, is written with the character delicious. This, and only this, is proof that she is a legitimate leader of the Sonozaki family. In the same way, Mion Sonozaki, its successor, contains chocolate cookie in her name, with me being written as Coco. This also goes for Orio's daughter and Mion's mother, Akane, who did not succeed her. It's known that before the disowning, Akane's name was actually written as White Cream, though it was changed afterwards to Triple Double. still read as Akane. Incidentally, it's thought that the first character, the mere Kichiro's name, Mint, originally meant demon, which can also be read as Ki. It should be said that names using the character Oreo aren't limited only to successors of the Sonozaki family. You can even find it in the last names of the three families. For example, the characters for Kimiyoshi are a likely split up version of... Oh my god. If you write it in reverse and top to bottom as blank, it clearly resembles the character demon. As for the Furude family, who have been in the Shinto priesthood for generations, the word for fortune teller can be written without interval characters as top of hand. I think that with the addition of a demon's horn, the tick on the top of the character, blank, the hand becomes that's used in their name now. In the case of the Sonozaki family, where Sonozaki is written as blank, I can't find any reference to the character demon, perhaps because it's already ingrained in their first names. They were the clan responsible for running the Watanagashi ceremony, so I think that instead, they included the contents of that ceremony into their last name. The Zaki in Sonozaki is a conjugation of the word for slice, and the Sono, written as blank, probably contains the hidden meaning for human body, as it is a complicated mess of organs enclosed by four sides. I think, in other words, that Sonozaki comes from those who slice open the gut. And then dunked into milk.
I'm back!
How'd it go? Did you find any clues?
The officers shook their heads in disappointment. Exhaustion was plainly showing on everyone's faces. That was only natural. None of them had gotten a wink of sleep since the day of the Watanagashi. Chief, let the youngest of us take a nap and then switch them out. We've got a long stretch ahead of us after all. Let's not push ourselves too hard. Rest up so we can take it as easy as we go.
I've been telling them to sleep in shifts. Nobody actually seems willing to sleep, though.
Oh, could you tell them yourself, Oishi-san?
Oh my. You don't need to force yourselves. Komiyama-ku, please let everyone sleep in shifts, starting with the youngest.
Komiya-san, please do that. After the chief told him as well, Komiya left his seat. So, Chief, still no good on our quest? It's just a rumor among the villagers in the first place, you know? It's not going to be it's going to be difficult without more concrete evidence. Even when that evidence might be tucked away in there?
We need evidence. That evidence is tucked away in there. Chief, don't start speaking riddles to me now. We have witnesses that say 4 people, including those 2 who died, went to the forbidden ritual storehouse without permission. This is all reliable information.
You may call it information, but they're really only rumors. They're not concrete evidence.
Well, it's true that we don't have any pictures of the 4 of them sneaking in with cloth tied around their heads. Anyway, those 4 saw something inside that storehouse. Something important enough that they'd be erased.
Important enough that they be erased? What would that be, exactly?
That's why I'm asking for a word to go looking for in the first place. Anything pointing out the Sonozaki family's connection to violent organizations would be a major contender. Like a pile of tokarebs or a secret poppy production facility. The secret Sonozaki family fortune would also be pretty difficult to discard.
Look, Hoshi-san, I know how you feel. However, that storehouse is a very sacred building belonging to the Furude Shrine, and we need to have proper consideration for the locals when dealing with it. I heard that there was an hour-long call made from Congressman Sonozaki to the big man. Chief, could he have nailed you back down? Anyway, as long as we don't have suitable evidence, we won't get a search warrant for the storehouse. That goes for the Sonozaki main house too, especially considering the jurisdiction of both Section 4 and the Prefectural Police's Crime Prevention Division. We need careful preparations first.
If you say you need preparations, then why don't you just let me talk with them directly? Shiga-chan is the head of the Section 4, right? For crime prevention, it's Yamaumi-san. It seemed like they'd be quicker to talk if I sat them down at the mahjong table.
Chief, you have a visitor. Yikes. Pushing the employee who guided him in right out of the way was an old man who looked like a Yakuza member, given his crested kimono and hakama. Did he not get enough of this over the phone?
I am Congressman Sonozaki. I demand to know who's responsible for this. This instant.
Hello, I'm the Division Chief, Takasugi.
I don't need your name. I could have had you demoted on a whim. You wouldn't even be enough. Bring out the one called Oishi or whatever. He deserves punishment for requesting a search warrant on the sacred Furude shrine.
I sincerely apologize. Oishi is currently out on an investigation and he's been difficult to contact. I'll take his place and hear you out. So please, have a seat. The chief's eyes were telling me to get out of here. Perhaps I'll gratefully accept this favor. Maybe I'll go lay down in the nap room.
Listen here, the Furude shrine spent 2,600 years under the imperial calendar and 2,500 more beyond that. It is sacred, a sanctuary that must never be defiled. The 800,000 gods, Oyashiro-sama, and the spirits of our ancestors are enshrined there. The holy shrine protects Hinamizawa from when the sun comes up to when it sets, and from when the moon rises to when it falls. Who is the idiot who wanted to set foot in there? Besides, the right to religion is the most revered right of the people of this country in the Constitution. You dare to be so bold as to sully that using your investigation's negligence as pretext? I cannot. No, I will not allow it. Are you listening, you lying scum? I'm angry now, so you're not getting off the hook that easily.
Oh boy. Need to be the chief there. I saw a ceiling I was familiar with. Though I was groggy from sleep, I did notice that I was in my futon, like it was every morning. I looked at my clock, and despite having turned in so late last night, I'd woken at precisely the same moment I always did. I'm so low on sleep, but I guess you really can get up at the same time every day. The secrets of the human body never cease to amaze me. If I went back to sleep like this, I would definitely not be waking up again. I spurred myself on and slipped out of my futon. Mom asked me about last night at breakfast. Apparently, we too had gotten a call asking if we knew Rika-chan and Satoko were, and Mom vaguely understood that something serious was happening. So then, you were out late last night with all your friends looking for them? Until about 3, I think. Yeah. Did you find them? Rika-chan and Satoko, I mean. Crunch. I really bit into my toast. It really didn't have any taste. Just then we heard the chime go ding-dong. I looked up at the clock and saw that it was about 5 minutes past my regular meeting time with Rena. It was her at the door.
Good morning. Did you get any sleep? Did you?
I think I slept for a few hours. You could probably count them on a chicken's toes, though.
Hahaha.
Rena seemed pretty sleep-deprived as well. There was something missing from her usual spirit.
Are you going to school?
Yeah, I think it'll be better that way. Oh, she said, smiling, albeit stiffly. Rena was probably worrying her heart out about those two as well. Even so, she wanted to go to school.
If you stay home today, I think you'd just be worrying non-stop and sleeping. I don't want that. So let's go to school together.
Alright. Wait just a moment. I'll get ready. I was just a little bit happy, but Rena must bring that much consideration for me. We went to the place where we usually meet up with Mion, but she was nowhere to be found. We were a little bit late today, so we thought she'd be waiting for us.
I guess Mi-chan couldn't wake up today, huh?
Ah, that's right. For her, it wasn't just yesterday. She was up all night looking for the mayor the night before last, too. We waited for a bit. Time passed until it got to the point where it was okay for us to go on alone, and we exchanged glances. What do we do? Wait a little longer? At that point, my brain, which had been fully woken up by the morning air, recalled the ominous words Oishi-san had left me with last night. The leaders of what three or families were disappearing, one after the other. And next, it might be the Sonozaki's leader. Could Mion have? No, that couldn't be.
Let's go. Let's let her sleep for today.
Rena gave me a pat on the back. Mion, she's still here, right?
Hmm? Did you say something?
Oh, nothing, just talking to myself. Let's get moving. The two of us headed to school by ourselves. On the way, we saw a bunch of our classmates accompanied by their parents. It even looked like some of them were being taken to school by car. Surprisingly, the principal was also standing watch at the school gate. I'd never seen that before.
Good morning. Good morning.
The principal was bowing to our classmates' guardians. The wooden sword leaning next to him was a little ominous.
Library-kun, good morning. Ryugu-kun, good morning.
Good morning.
Your teacher has something important to say, so head straight to the classroom. Alright?
Renai said nothing. The madness that only existed at night had finally crawled out into the sunlight. That's what I felt like.
Good morning, everyone.
The hushed conversations that had been spreading for a while now all disappeared like an illusion the moment our teacher walked in the door. Silence dominated the classroom. The principal came in with our teacher as well. This was clearly not a normal morning.
First, the principal has something important to tell everyone. Go ahead, Mr. Principal.
The principal cleared his throat and approached the dais.
I'm sure some of you already know this.
The classroom was dead silent. Everyone was staring at Rika-chan and Tsutoko's empty seats. The principal briefly and simply declared that Rika-chan and Tsutoko had gone missing. There wasn't a single person in the classroom we didn't already know. There seemed to be many, however, who couldn't accept it as the truth. It had been confirmed to them now by the principal's words. There were sobs throughout the classroom, and I heard a kid crying. They steadily spread throughout the whole room. The big-hearted principal wasn't able to keep his cool either.
Okay, everyone, pay attention. From today on, your parents and guardians will be taking you to school. For those of you whose parents can't do so, you'll be coming here in groups. I made a handout, so read it carefully and be sure to show it to your parents. Understand?
The teacher's voice was a little abrasive. Not even she could conceal the strain she felt in this unprecedented, abnormal situation. It's just cancelled school today. However, Rena told me that school was also like a nursery for the students whose parents both worked, so some of them wouldn't want school to be cancelled.
Well then, let's begin the lesson. Class president?
Oh, she's absent, I see.
Then whoever's on day duty, let me hear it. All right.
That feeling of wanting to maintain an everyday atmosphere, even if only in school, precisely because our lives had been messed up, was something that I agreed with at this point.
Hello?
Fine, school's over. As for the teacher, who had always had her lunch in the staff lounge, she ate in the classroom today. I had to laugh at her curry bento, which was just a rumor until now, but there was nobody to laugh with me. Rena brought her chair and lunch over to my seat. Today, it was only the two of us. The fact that we didn't need to drag any other desks over was sad.
I'm sleepy.
Yeah, I don't feel like sleeping anymore though. In fact, I'm jealous of the people that could sleep at a time like this. They've got nerves of steel.
Ha ha ha, you're right.
I was sleepy this morning, but my drowsiness had dissipated after coming to school and constantly feeling the incredible tension. Rena's bento box didn't have its usual luster. That was to be expected. Rena was up for a long time last night too. She wouldn't have had time to make her lunch beforehand. Since it's not like she would have gotten up early this morning.
Grab anything you want. Go ahead and you can admit that my bento is better today.
Oh.
Okay, then I'll have some. Wow, a Chikawa roll with perilla and cheese? That's interesting.
Rena, yours might have some ready-made food in it, but it's pretty good too. I realized the two of us were desperately trying to brighten the afternoon mood to its usual level as much as we could. I looked around the classroom. It seemed like we were the only ones trying to do so, surrounded as we were by gloominess.
Ooh. Just the two of us sharing our lunches like this. It's sort of... well... sort of like... something. How?
Ha ha ha.
Ha ha ha.
Our laughter grew quieter. I was the first one to mess up. Sorry. I'm sorry.
No, it's okay. It's not your fault.
Our chopsticks both stopped moving. We couldn't keep it up anymore. Riga-chan, Satoko. I wonder where they went. Those words might have sounded too miserable. Everyone was thinking it, using roundabout ways to address the topic. But I came right out and said it. I heard Rena catch her breath.
Yesterday, while you were gone, I heard a bunch of things. So I'll tell you what I know, okay?
Sorry again about last night. Go ahead. At that time, since they had arrived for support, Rena was helping the Ladies' Society cook the miso soup we'd had. They reported all the information the villagers had gathered, and Rena said she overheard it. They didn't know anything important though, did they? Rika-chan and Satoko went home after school. Then apparently went somewhere on their bikes, but other than that... Fiona told me yesterday, we had no clues.
Yeah, the police had also said that they probably went out on their bikes to go play somewhere as soon as they got home. If they were going to play somewhere on their bikes right after getting home.
Oh, then they might have gotten to town.
So I guess they concluded they disappeared while in Okonomiya. The police were saying how they were going to expand their search to Okonomiya in the morning.
In town. It makes sense why we couldn't find them even if we search all of Hanamizawa then. Still, something didn't fit. I had no basis for thinking that. Just a gut feeling. I revealed something to Rika-chan that was likely very important to her that day. Then, Rika-chan had told me to leave it to her. And then... what did she say? Right. If you didn't work hard, then something bad might happen to the dog too, I think. With all the talk of dogs and cats, I still hadn't had the faintest idea what she really meant. But, it might have been Rika-chan's way of saying that this was a race against time. Damn it. I selfishly pushed my anxiety onto Rika-chan and tried to run away. When I thought about it, I shouldn't have run back then. I should have asked her more about the dogs and cats. The more I think back on it, I really screwed up. Who was the dog? Who's the cat? Me? Anyway, I don't think Rika-chan was in a situation where she would just go off to play somewhere. Of course, I didn't have any evidence or conviction to base that on. It was just a hunch. I don't think she'd go into town.
You think so too, Keiichi-kun? I agree. Rika-chan and Soko-chan must have disappeared in Namizawa.
I looked back at Rena, startled. I could hear the conviction in those words. Without replying to my gaze, she took her bento box and went to the hallway.
I'm going to go rinse this out.
She timed that in a way that broke off the conversation. Suddenly, I got the feeling that the next thing she had to say would be hard to say aloud in the classroom. I hurriedly grabbed my bento box and followed her. Rena didn't go to the kitchenette, and rather, the water fountains out back, where students seldom went. The water flowed down onto her bento boxes. During that time, Rena didn't say a word. Then, after making sure there were no other students around, she finally opened her mouth to speak.
The whole thing about Rika-chan and Satoko-chan going to town to play and then disappearing, that didn't make sense for some reason, so I decided to investigate a little bit myself.
Who did you ask? What'd you ask them about?
I asked the Lady Society all kinds of things. There was a lot of tofu in the miso soup yesterday, remember? The old lady from the Tomita tofu shop came too.
The Tomita tofu shop. Oh, I remember. That was one of the stores on the road leading to the hospital. Those huge lumps of tofu dancing in the bathtub like cistern always look nice and refreshing.
The old lady says she remembers Satoko-chan stopping to buy tofu there on the way home from school.
Tofu? Well, it's on the way home, right? How is that a clue?
Just listen. Do you remember when we went to Rika-chan's house?
Rena stepped away from the sinks and spread her arms wide to recreate the space of Rika-chan's room.
There was a pot on her gas cooker and there was miso soup in it. I think there was probably about half of it inside. The rest was in the refrigerator. They must have been planning to make chilled tofu. It was on a plate in plastic wrap.
As Rena explained, she walked around as if she was really going through Rika-chan's room. Still, Rena, why does this matter?
Keiichi-kun, when you make miso soup, you put it in the tofu last. That means that Rika-chan or Satoko-chan, whoever was cooking, was standing there, making it up until right before dinner time.
Right up until dinner time? Wasn't everyone saying that their bikes weren't around, so they must have gone somewhere to play by themselves?
The trash in the countertop bin was put in there really awkwardly too. Rika-chan makes most of their food and lunches, but occasionally Satoko-chan does it too. So Satoko-chan was cooking that night.
So that means that Satoko at least didn't go somewhere to play. She was preparing dinner?
Yeah. Then I took a look in the rice cooker, and there's rice for two still in there.
So she made dinner for both of them, but neither of them ate it. Is that it?
Rena nodded. So next I looked in the fridge. There was some chilled tofu, made from the others half that they bought. That's not all though. There were a whole bunch of plates with side dishes for dinner, and all of them were in plastic wrap.
Usually plastic wrap things so that you can have leftovers for the next day. My mom does it all the time too, using them in breakfast or lunch.
That's right, use plastic wrap to save leftovers for later.
Oh. So the fact that they were in the fridge means that they didn't plan on eating them that night at least.
Is that what it means? Keiichi-kun, think a little harder. Their dinner was totally untouched and wrapped up. What do you think that means?
Well... That means they didn't need to eat dinner anymore. So they would have gone out to eat or ordered takeout?
It must have been really sudden, too. If they had decided to do that beforehand, they wouldn't have made anything, but... there was dinner for two of them. That means when Satoko-chan was making their dinner, they really thought they were going to eat it until right before they didn't.
So then the theory about the two of them going out to play and then disappearing is wrong.
Yep. They disappeared after making dinner and right before they ate it. Probably around 7 o'clock.
Where would they have gone at a time like that by themselves without eating?
That's obviously where this is leading. Keiichi-kun, do you remember? On their fold-out table, there were things like soy sauce and a chopstick holder.
There might have been something like that. I didn't remember.
The container for the soy sauce, it was empty. There wasn't even a drop left. Chilled tofu wouldn't taste good without it. So I looked under their sink for a larger bottle of soy sauce they have.
You sure know a lot about where they keep this stuff.
Haha, I've been to Rika-chan's house and cooked for them before.
Rena cleared her throat, and her face returning to a serious expression.
That's when I opened the cabinet. The big bottle of soy sauce wasn't there at all.
It wasn't there? What does that mean?
Everything I'm going to say from here on is just Rena's idea. So please listen until the end without saying anything.
Last night, Satoko-chan was making dinner like normal. Rika-chan was usually watch TV until the food was ready, so she was probably lying down watching a variety show or something.
Satoko put the tofu in the miso soup, and right when dinner was about to be ready, she noticed that they were out of soy sauce. So Rika-chan, who had nothing to do, brought the big bottle of soy sauce to a neighbor's house to borrow theirs. I don't really know my neighbors that well.
Oh. Would people be willing to just give her soy sauce?
Yeah, it's not all that uncommon in Hinamizawa.
So Rika-chan rode her bike out to get some soy sauce.
No matter how long Satoko-chan waited though, Rika-chan didn't come back. So then Satoko-chan called up the house where Rika-chan was going. Would Rika happen to be imposing on you? Something like that. Then the other person must have replied with something like this.
We have plenty of food here, so you should come too, Satoko-chan. Rika-chan has already eaten.
I think that's how they call her out there. Satoko called Rika a few names in private and wrapped up the dinner she had made for them. She put it in the fridge so she could use it for breakfast and lunch the next day. Then Satoko got on her bike too, and headed for the house where Rika-chan was.
Okay, but this is already pretty strange. You don't normally make so much food that you can give it away to people who suddenly arrive at your house. A veteran housewife would never normally make so much food that she could feed 2 extra people. Could it just have been a coincidence that they made too much?
It's still unthinkable.
Rena flatly denied me.
Since Rika-chan knew that Satoko-chan had worked really hard to make dinner for them, didn't she? No matter what kind of food she was offered, she wouldn't let Satoko's dinner go to waste.
So this was all only circumstantial evidence and Rena's guesswork. Even so, it was all extremely convincing. It was the only ray of hope we had to topple this situation bereft of clues. Then Rena, where did Rika-chan go? To get soy sauce. That was the heart of it. It would have to be somewhere she'd be comfortable with asking for soy sauce, and somewhere Satoko wouldn't think it suspicious that she'd been invited for dinner. So, who was it?
Rena slowly shook her head. That's all for Rena's guesses. These are all just ideas, okay? Keep them a secret from the police.
What is there to hide? Even if only half of what you say is right, it should be a good clue for all this.
Keiichi-kun, this all means suspecting someone from Hinamizawa. We can't suspect anyone without a really good reason.
I saw a few girls coming over to rinse their bento boxes. Rena cut the conversation short there, and returned to the classroom. I stayed there alone, my body bathed in the lively voices of the cicadas. Let's think about this. In my own way, Rena had barely any information to go on, and yet she'd reasoned out that much. So, there should be something that only I, who knew far more than Rena did, could deduce. Oishi-san said that last night too, but this incident was definitely occurring within Hanamizawa. Rena might not have wanted to believe it, but it's basically a given that the culprit is someone from the village. The trigger for everything that was when the 4 of us trespassed in the Forbidden Storehouse. Somebody saw us going in there. For the culprits, breaking the taboo was a crime punishable by death. So that night, Toмотake-san and Takano-san were sacrificed. There were 2 left. Shion and myself. However, before the culprits bore their fangs on Shion and me, they went after the mayor, to whom Shion had confessed her sin. Next, they went for Rika-chan, to whom I confessed my sin. And what about Satoko? Just a stray bullet? By itself, Rika-chan being sacrificed after I told her everything was mortifying. But Satoko, who was sacrificed for no reason? Wasn't that all the more regrettable? Everything was my fault. Who would be the next to disappear? Would it be Shion and me next time? Why weren't the culprits going for Shion and me right away, though? If they had enough power to erase the mayor and Rika-chan, then why not just get rid of Shion and me? If they went for us, well, I wouldn't like it, but I could still tolerate it. What I couldn't forgive was them getting rid of those we confessed to. Now that I think about it, yesterday Shion said something alarming. She felt like someone was watching her. So then, was someone watching me as well? Strangely though, I hadn't felt anything like that until now. Even though I'm the root cause of everything, I'd never once had that impression. Maybe that was simply because Shion was more cautious than me, and I was just careless. That's another story though. Let's get back on track. Why weren't the culprits going after Shion and me? I felt like that's where the key to this lay. Could it be... Was I making a big assumption that I shouldn't have been? I thought and thought, but couldn't come up with an answer. The one thing I understood was that I was a concerned party to this case, and that I had a duty to watch over it until everything got resolved. I heard the ring of the bell declaring the end of lunch break. Would somebody else disappear tonight? If nobody else did, then I wanted them to get rid of me tonight, for sure, and then put an end to all this. Shion's hysterical voice on the phone last night came back to my mind. They planned to murder those close to us first, make us as miserable as possible, and only then would they kill us. My Barcoon, lunch break is over. Go back to the classroom. At the principal's urging, I returned to the classroom, which was quiet as the streets at night. There were a lot of parents picking up their children after school. It was just like a kindergarten. The students whose parents didn't come went home as a group. We left school with everyone else, following the assigned route. Even while leaving, nobody said anything funny. They all looked like exhausted mountaineers silently marching through the mountains. As we went, one left, and then another, and in the end it was just Rena and me. I was supposed to escort Rena all the way to her house, but she declined. Will you be alright? It's not safe to go alone.
It would just be as dangerous for you to go home by yourself after bringing me back, Ichi-kun. It's still light out anyway. I'll be fine.
I see. Then be careful, okay?
Yeah. Huh? Isn't that a policeman?
Rena pointed towards my house. There was a car stopped in front of it. From out of the car came Oishi-san. He must have been waiting for my return to ambush me. Oishi-san started walking over wearing that annoying grin. Rena, you should go. If you get involved with him, you'll be here for hours.
But what if the police went with you? With you?
Rena's a good person. Even when I made a fuss over Rika-chan's disappearance, she never asked me why I did. She could have been suspecting me ever since then, and that would have been okay. Even so, she still hadn't asked me anything. She didn't try and pressure me into revealing the truth. I'm not the culprit.
I know that.
That said, I can't say that I'm totally uninvolved in this incident. Rena simply listened, smiling like she always did. Even though I had insinuated I was related to the incident, she didn't look at me as though she were looking at something dirty. I'll tell you next time.
Okay. I'm looking forward to it.
Get going then. Rena gave me a slight bow and trotted away, leaving me alone with Oishi-san, who walked over.
Hello, hello. Welcome home, Maber-san.
Hello.
Looks like your parents are here. My, was I in a bit of a spot.
You came all the way to my house? I can only thank my good fortune that my parents were absent. Since neither of them were around at this hour, they'd probably be back late. I think Dad got called out on business. I don't think he'll be back until later.
I see. Well, that's convenient, I suppose. We can do this without giving your parents any strange ideas.
Oishi-san pushed my back, prompting me to walk. It seemed like he wanted me to get in the car. Why are you taking me to the police station? I wasn't the culprit, but I was the cause of everything. It wouldn't be weird if he wanted to investigate me. That kind of gave me a resigned feeling.
No, I just don't want to stand around talking. We can just talk in the car, that's all. Come on now, don't be shy.
He opened the back door and urged me inside. If I got in, I wouldn't have had a very easy time getting out. If I said no, however, then this man might really handcuff me and take me away. I couldn't refuse. I could only accept in good grace. The inside of the car had been cooled too much by the air conditioner. There was a rusty smell coming in from the filter, which might have been cleaned only rarely.
Oh, is it too cold? I'll turn the car off.
You turned off the engine, it suddenly became quiet, and the voices of the Higurashi, with all their cool loneliness, snuck inside. Quack, 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 quack. Sounded to me like a chorus of voices lamenting my exorbitant punishment for having harbored such foolish curiosity. For a few moments, while listening to those voices, I myself lamented. The days that had been twisted and distorted since that night. Oishi-san, as if waiting for me to voluntarily begin talking, lit a cigarette and listened to the Higurashi. The silence became deafening, and I was the one who folded first. How's the investigation going?
Investigation? Of what? There have been so many. Which do you mean?
All of them.
Well, alright then. They're officially secret investigations and we're under a media blackout, but I'll let you in on them. Then shall we start from the first incident?
The freak deaths of Tomotaki-san and Takano-san on the night of Utanagashi.
On this one, embarrassingly enough, we haven't made any progress at all. First of all, Tomotaki-san. There were indications on his body that he was assaulted by a group of people, but we have no explanation for him clawing out his own throat and dying. We suspect an overdose of some stimulant or something, but we didn't detect anything.
What about Takano-san?
Same. We're in the dark. Autopsies for those who were burned to death are real tough. We believe she was doused in gasoline after she was strangled. That one falls under Gifu Prefecture's police department. They haven't been very cooperative even though it happened in our territory. Oh, that's not really relevant though.
So the police don't know anything other than the fact that the victims died inexplicably.
Nonetheless, the times when the incidents occurred have been generally placed right after the festival ended. It's a bit uncertain in Takano-san's case, but the likely prospect is that she was murdered at about the same time as Tomotaki-san, then dumped in the mountains in Gifu.
Why would they bring a dead body all the way to the mountains? They should have just brought Tomotaki-san out there too.
Oh my, Mabura-san, you're quite sharp, you know that. Of course, I do believe that there is something we need to be attentive of. There are a bunch of other suspicious things, but this is about all I can tell you at this point.
How about the mayor? Have there been any clues? Having exhausted that topic, I changed the subject. Otherwise, he might turn the conversation on me.
We investigated his movements on the day he disappeared. We didn't find anything that could provide any clues, but I'll tell you about it anyway.
The mayor, Kichiro Kimiyoshi. Apparently he was suffering from severe hemorrhoids.
People who live a long time have an unusual amount of pride, so the mayor hadn't been telling anyone that he was going to a proctologist at a certain university hospital in Shishibone. On the day he disappeared, he had an appointment for a checkup, so we went out first thing in the morning.
Even I knew that big hospitals like university hospitals had a really long waiting time. Apparently, people would get in line hours beforehand, even if they had an appointment.
His exam ended at 1 p.m. After that, he ate a light meal in the hospital restaurant and passed the time reading a magazine. We know this because of a receipt we found in his wallet at his house.
There was nothing suspicious at all about that.
That day, he had planned to go to a meeting in the assembly hall in the evening.
He was supposed to return home with plenty of time to spare, but while he was on the train coming back, there was an accident.
Seems it delayed him a bit, and he only got back to his house right before the meeting was scheduled to start. His family witnessed a very hectic mayor leaving to go to the assembly hall at the shrine.
What was that meeting about? He disappeared on his way back home, right?
The three families and the essential members of the town assembly were at the meeting. We think they were discussing how to deal with the serial freak death incidents that had happened during the year.
So then, on his way home, the old man who had treated Shion like his own daughter. He was a dependable person who would encourage Shion whenever she felt pressured by anxiety. And yet, Shion's painful voice struck me right in the heart.
Huh? What's the matter?
I was taken aback by how strange my own voice sounded. What was it that just surprised me? I squeezed my head with my hands trying to try and drag back out what I only realized for a split second. Remember, Keiichi Maibara, you just realized something. Something important. The night of Utanagashi. That was when everything started. That night, Takano-san and Tomitaki-san died. The next morning, word of the incident had spread throughout Hanamizawa. They planned to talk about it during the evening meeting. The mayor, however, had an appointment at the hospital, and as planned, he went there without telling his family. He got a checkup at the hospital. He ate something, and then there was an unexpected delay on his train ride back. When he returned, the meeting was already about to start. The mayor changed clothes, got on his bicycle, and hurried to the assembly hall at the shrine as fast as he could. From when he heard about the incident on the night of Utanagashi until when he showed up at the assembly hall, everything he was doing that day was done in secret. During that time, nobody found out that he went to the hospital alone. He ate alone. And he got on the train alone. That all meant he had absolutely no contact with anyone else. You couldn't have even called him on the phone. Okay. But what does that mean, Keiichi Maibara? Why does that matter, Keiichi Maibara?
Kei-chan, what should I do?
What's wrong? Tell me. We're not keeping secrets from each other, right?
Old man Kimiyoshi. I told him everything.
I told him everything. I told old man Kimiyoshi everything.
That night, I told the mayor that we snuck into the ritual storehouse. Also that someone saw us and was out to get us.
Right. What then?
Old man Kimiyoshi didn't get angry. He smiled, then told me that if I was properly sorry about it, there was no way I'd be demoned away. He was really smiling, and he told me to leave it to him. Ugh.
Sweat burst out of my body like bullets. They became one long strand, and slid down from my forehead to my nose, and fell. So then, what does it mean? Hey, Keiichi Maibara, no more playing dumb. When did she tell him? Shion said she learned of the incident from a phone call her father had made that morning. The mayor had left the house first thing in the morning for his appointment at the hospital. He didn't tell anybody where he was going. Nobody knew about him going to the university hospital. Furthermore, his train ride back to his house was delayed by an accident, As soon as he got home, he was rushed out to the assembly hall. Then the meeting at the assembly hall began. It continued until it was dark out. Then everyone left. Nobody saw him after the meeting was over. He just disappeared. Which meant...
Maber-san, you alright? If you're too hot, I can turn on the air conditioner room.
Another part of me was messing with my thoughts, demanding that I not think any further than that. My head was pounding violently, and the fluids packed inside it, all blended together until nothing made sense. It was just about to settle, yet it had been smashed and melted in the blink of an eye, no longer able to retain its shape.
Maber-san? You in there? Hello?
Yeah. Oishi-san lit yet another cigarette. There was yet another cigarette butt placed in the ashtray. Was it displaying the passage of time? Had my thoughts been frozen over for that long?
I try to tell you everything I know. In return, feel free to tell me anything you want, Maber-san.
My mind had become a gigantic oozing mess. My brain felt like it had been totally minced by the blades of a blender. I couldn't think.
Now, don't clam up again. If there are any misunderstandings, I'd like to clear them up first. I don't think you're the culprit here or anything.
Oishi-san gave his best attempt at an adult smile.
I know the four of you snuck in the ritual storehouse that night. Everyone in the village heard rumors about it by the next day. That in itself means that we should take you in the trespassing, but that is the problem. It's what was inside. What was inside that made people who snuck in there end up as sacrifices?
There wasn't anything. As soon as I said it, I regretted confirming my presence there. But I knew it didn't matter anymore.
Was there really nothing in there? I mean, everyone who went in there is being sacrificed one by one, you know? Even the mayor and Rika-san who switched the lock on the door were sacrificed. What was inside that could have caused such terrible things to happen?
I was far too tired to keeping quiet about this. Perhaps that was Oishi-san's goal all along. But again, that didn't matter anymore. There were just a lot of torture devices that were used a long time ago. I looked around at them with everyone.
Was that really all?
That was really all.
There's nothing terrible in there that made you keep silent? Like a pile of psychoactive drugs? Maybe a secret poppy workshop? Perhaps there were mountains of Soviet or Chinese handguns? There weren't any suspicious wooden boxes or containers packed in there.
There was nothing as exaggerated as what Oishi-san was hoping for, but I felt like in a way there were plenty of terrible things hidden in there. From the perspective of someone who viewed the storehouse as sacred, whether or not I thought I'd seen some crazy things didn't matter in the slightest. The four of us broke the taboo. Punish us. That should have been what happened.
We put in a request for a search warrant thinking that there might have been some secrets hidden in the storehouse. But it's been the sabotage of the century. They said it would be an insult to religious figures and something about the right to free religion in the Constitution. Jeez, that's why I really didn't have any other recourse but to ask you, since you went in there.
There really were just old, rusty, dusty, tortured equipment. Nothing else stood out.
Huh. Then Tomatake-san and Takano-san were only killed as punishment for having broken the taboo.
I didn't have an answer for the only part.
I suppose I won't bother hiding it anymore. You're the only one to escape harm so far. Everyone but you has disappeared, and yet you alone are safe. What's the difference between you and them that would protect you, but bring harm to the others? That's what I want to know.
There was something wrong with what Oishi-san was saying. You alone? You alone? What? Wait a second. What do you mean by you alone?
Nah, ha, ha. I'm saying that you alone have been left alive, right? Out of the 4 people who were tiptoed into the storehouse for ritual implements, I mean.
The only one left alive? Hold on. Shion was still...
Jiro Tomitake, Mio Takano, died that night. Shion Sonozaki disappeared the next day. Only you are still safe and sound at this point. Why only you? I'm saying that's what I want to know.
Shion disappeared? That's impossible. I intentionally raised my voice, but I didn't care about that. Tomitake-san died. Takano-san died. And Shion disappeared? When did she disappear? What's this guy talking about?
Oh, well now I thought you were long since aware of this.
This is the first I've heard of it. Shion disappeared when?
Well, going back a bit, she disappeared the day after Watanagashi.
Going back a bit? Stop saying stuff I don't understand.
Shion Sonozaki spends the night at relatives' houses depending on her mood on any given day. So no one thought much of not knowing where she was. She frequently takes days off from school, too. Her teacher had been pretty troubled by it.
I didn't ask about any of that. I'm asking you when Shion disappeared.
I told you it was the day after Watanagashi.
The fluids in my body all reversed direction. I lost my sense of balance. And everything I could see started to warp and twist out of shape. I simply couldn't endure it. Hang on. Shion had already disappeared. Then, that night, that call, that phone call. Who was that? She called me every night. She encouraged me. We vowed that we would do our best to live on and not be erased. Yes, that should have been a phone call with Shion. Should have been a phone call with Shion. That should have been Shion.
She took breaks from class like it was nothing, and her family wouldn't listen when I told them. So I didn't bother calling school in the end. So it ended up taking quite a while before we realized she disappeared.
I felt a stabbing pain like needles were being pushed into every pore of my body. It started out on my back and began spreading throughout the rest of me. When it had completely covered the surface of my skin, it began to worm its way inside my stomach as well.
Don't you remember? We talked at the library the day after Watanagashi. Shion-san was there then. That was the last we saw of her. No one knows where she's been since.
That can't be. That day, Oishi-san had only caught me, and Shion bounded away, lying that she needed to go to work. Didn't she call me that night?
Her job was at a restaurant called Angel Mort, right? She hasn't been there since that day. She's been completely absent ever since. The person at that restaurant couldn't get in touch with her. He was really worried.
That can't be. It can't be.
It's only circumstantial evidence, but after she left us at the library, but before she made it to work, I think it's appropriate to consider her having disappeared during that time.
Right after Shion ran away without me?
Seems that you didn't know. Maybe if you had said something earlier, this would have gone more quickly. Now you understand, right? You're the only one left. You're the only survivor of the 4 who slipped in the ritual storehouse.
It couldn't be. It just couldn't be. If something else happens,
It would happen to you. I need you to understand that, my son.
Can't be. It can't be. It can't be. Shion had already disappeared? That could be. It can't. I talked to her the day before yesterday. I talked to her last night. She was going to call me again today. That was Shion on the phone. Shion. It was from Shion. Shion.
Shion has long since disappeared. Next will be you.
Then who was on the phone these past nights? Who was on the phone? Who? Who was on the phone? It can't be! Oh no!
Your rule just got cracked.
Cracked open, Keiichi. I lay down on the couch and stayed there dazed for a while. My mind was completely blank. I couldn't think about anything for more than a few seconds. There was a note in my house saying that Mom and Dad would be home late, and I should have some ramen or something for dinner. I could make it whenever I got hungry, but I had no appetite. I just stared blankly at the ceiling without eating anything. My hands at the clock, already pointing at 10. Would I get another phone call like that today? Even though Shion had already disappeared, would she still call me? Where were they calling from? And who were they? The more I thought about it, the more I started to tremble. I even thought about just disconnecting the phone line. If I'd been thinking a little less logically, I really would have done it too. Hold on, Keiichi, my bro. Oishi-san admitted it himself, didn't he? That Shion went missing a lot? She couldn't have just gone to relatives that Oishi-san didn't know about and have been there ever since. Shion and I were both targeted by somebody, so it wouldn't be strange to think she went somewhere she usually didn't, in order to hide. That must have been why Oishi-san couldn't locate her, and why he labeled her disappearance. Yeah, that had to be it. Shion hadn't disappeared at all. Then my right hand moved of its own volition and slapped me on the cheek. Its cold sting let me calm down a little. Don't just convince yourself of the most convenient possibility, Keiichi Maibara. I knew I didn't want to admit she had disappeared. Admitting it would mean that something terrifying was definitely happening. I just needed to figure out whether Shion was the one on the phone or not. Would I ask her if she was actually Shion? That seemed like an incredibly absurd thing to do. Still, don't run from this, Keiichi. If the person on the other end still believed that I thought he was Shion, then that gave me a tiny advantage. Casually, completely casually, I would listen to what she had to say and fend her off. I would tear the skin off the monster. It would definitely be really scary for me. However, as the last survivor of the people who went to the storehouse that night, this was my duty to perform. Still then, who would call me and pretend to be Shion? I may have only heard her voice over the phone, but her voice shouldn't be that easy to replicate. That was definitely Shion's voice. It sounded just like her. It could have only been Shion. There was someone though, wasn't there? Someone who sounded just like Shion? Mion. Who else could have done this? At this point, seriously, after all this time, all those little things that didn't quite make sense about Mion until now overwhelmed my mind. Like being questioned about sneaking into the ritual storehouse, and how she shook the ladder while spouting curses. Who else? Who else could have? Why though? Why would Mion... I thought back to the things about the Sonozaki family that I'd heard from Oishi-san and Shion. Mion was always entangled in the incidents, in a position where she was omnipotent. Some of that information included things that Shion had told me after she disappeared. I madly scratched in my head. Courage. Give me the courage. Just a little bit of courage to pick up the phone. I know it will ring tonight. It would be so easy to run away. That, though, would be the same as making it easy for them to erase me. I cannot run. I must stand up and face it. After all, the next sacrifice would definitely be me. I was sure Shion would use tricky words to try and trap me. Be careful. Be careful. I'm scared. I'm scared. I don't want to do this. I don't want to do this. I don't want to do this. At that point, it rang. The phone rang, I didn't know where the call was coming from. Shion had disappeared. Disappeared a long time ago. Disappeared the night after Watanagashi. Yet, until today, she had been calling me like nothing happened. Now again, tonight, the people that disappeared, their corpses simply hadn't been found. I really didn't think they were alive. So if it really was Shion on the other end, then did she mean... Was she calling me from another world? No, of course that couldn't be. A living being was calling me, pretending to be Shion. Shion was long gone, and yet, as though she were alive and well, the phone continued its incessant ringing. I didn't want to pick up if I didn't have to. I had just concluded, though, that not doing so wouldn't solve anything. Then what would I do if I answered it? Would I immediately declare that she wasn't Shion and ask who she was? Alternatively, would I pretend that I was still fooled, trying to grab her by the tail? That would probably be the safest thing to do. What was I most afraid of? Was that the person on the other end of the line would do what she realized what she knew I wouldn't when I found out she wasn't Shion. However, as long as I continued to let her think I was fooled, she wouldn't do anything extreme, right? If I were just to be careful, that should be the safest option. Made up my mind. I'll answer the phone. Once I do that, I'll talk to her as if nothing happened. That wasn't all I'd do this time, though. I'd scope her out. Who was she? What was she thinking? And what was she after? Why was she doing this? Was she really the one who killed Tomatake-san and Takano-san? What happened to the mayor? What happened to Rika-chan and Satoko? I reached out for the receiver. My arm trembling. There are too many things I wanted to know. Too many things I wanted to ask. Too many things to ask. I was scared. I should start by picking up the phone. Pick it up, Keiichi. Pick it up, Keiichi. Hello? Oh, how relieved I would have been if it hadn't been a call from Shion.
Ah, Kei-chan. It's me. Shion.
My momentary, convenient, and above all fleeting prediction was ripped into 1,000 pieces. I couldn't help shaking at this point. Get ready for this.
You took a long time to pick up. I thought you weren't home, and I was about to hang up.
Sorry. I was just in the bath.
Did your family not pick up for you? Could your parents be out right now, Kei-chan?
I failed. I let her in on a fatal piece of information. I was currently the only one at my house. Well, no, they're not really. Anyway, haven't you heard? About Rika-chan and Satoko?
No. What happened after that? Were they found? No, they weren't found. Kei-chan, please don't lose hope.
If Oishi-san hadn't let me know, then I might have allowed myself to shed a tear or two at Shion's considerate words. Instead, now that I'd come to this, I couldn't take her words at face value. This person, on the other end of the receiver, the more perfect as Shion they were, the more my blood curdled in fear. Rika-chan and Satoko, they were kidnapped, weren't they?
Yes. I don't think there's much doubt.
Just how cruel and grave a meaning did those words hold? Their weight astonished me, and then a moment later I was overcome with numbness and felt like I would pass out. I had asked if Rika-chan and Satoko had been kidnapped. Shion, in turn, had answered that there wasn't much doubt. That cruel meaning behind her words.
Rika-chan and Satoko were... no, I mean...
I'm sorry, about the mayor. What do you think happened after he was kidnapped? Do you think he's still alive? What happened to Rika-chan and Satoko after they were kidnapped? That's what I wanted to ask, but I frantically caught myself. What if she had given that question, a terrifying response, in such a way to sound like it had nothing to do with her? I was scared of that, so I immediately brought up the mayor. That said, however, much I talked about the mayor, Rika...
I think he was killed.
Hey, wait, that was quick.
I think it must be really hard to kidnap someone and keep them like they are. As long as they're not hostages, it would be most practical to kill them once you're done with them.
The world started to bend so much as I almost lost my balance. The scenery in my eyes swirled around and around like the hands of a clock and tried to swallow me whole from below. I frantically put my hand on the wall to support myself. A moment later, a severe nausea welled up within me. How was she saying such things so lightly? Kill them. So readily. I mean, what's a human life or two anyway?
It's a horrible thing, but I think it's probably what happened.
If the mayor was killed, then did that mean the same thing had happened to Rika-chan and Satoko? No, I couldn't. They weren't some random old man. It was Rika-chan. It was Satoko. They couldn't kill them so readily.
It's probably better to think that Rika-chan and Satoko-chan ended up the same way.
Those words I wanted to hear the least, and I fought them back with a scream of my own, even though it wouldn't change anything. Still, I still couldn't help but scream. This time the tears flowed. I'd been confronted with the most horrific outcome that I'd been trying to avoid considering ever since last night. And I cried. There was no longer any doubt. It was my fault. I killed them. I killed Rika-chan and Satoko. I succumbed to the weakness of my own heart and confessed everything to Rika-chan. That's why they were killed. That meant I killed them. And Rika-chan looked at me with those innocent eyes. If only I hadn't given in. Even my voice gave out, and yet still I cried. And cried.
Kei-chan, please just try and calm down.
Rika-chan and Satoko, they've been killed. We couldn't even find their remains. I'll never be allowed to even apologize to their faces. If that was to be my punishment, then how brutal a punishment it was. I think Shion tried to comfort me, but I didn't hear any of it.
What are you going to gain by doing that? They're definitely going to target you and me next. Please, I'm asking you, get a hold of yourself. Please. Please.
Shion was shouting, imploring me with a voice that sounded like tears in her eyes. However, I was coming to hate the sound of that voice more and more. This Shion killed them. I had no doubts that this person killed them. Why? 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 Why kidnap someone and kill them? Screw curses! Are people's lives really that cheap? Erasing them and killing them without a second thought like this?
You're right. You're absolutely right. It would take a demon.
I felt like crushing the receiver in my hand. How long did this person plan on acting like this was someone else's problem? There was magma in the pit of my stomach, and it felt like it was going to erupt at any moment. Hey, Shion. Please tell me, why did Hinamizawa start needing someone to die on the night of Utamagashi?
That's what I'd like to know.
If fighting over the dam project is already over and done with, haven't enough people been cursed already? Why is it? Why? If there's a reason, say it now! I was incoherent at this point. My emotions had broken through the dam inside me. rushing forth and I couldn't stop them. These were not simple questions. This was an interrogation. Shion herself hadn't realized it yet. It was just too funny. It was so funny. I couldn't stop crying.
I understand how you feel, Kei-chan, I really do. Damn wars ended a long time ago. Yet, murders and disappearances kept happening every year under the guise of Oyoshiro-sama's curse. Why? Why is it happening? Some of them had nothing to do with this, and some of them didn't deserve to be cursed. So why? Why?
That's what I'm asking you.
I want to know as much as anyone.
Ha. Both of our ragged breaths could be heard over the phone.
Listen, Oyoshiro-sama's curse never existed. It's too unrealistic. Just like you said, someone in this village is using the grand name of Oyoshiro-sama's curse as a justification for continuing these murders and disappearances everywhere Tanagashi. They're cunning. They've been using the curse as a convenient tool and made a system where they would get rid of 2 enemies in the village every year. And this year, that system killed Takano-san and Tomitake-san.
Then why wasn't that enough? Why did the mayor and Rika-chan and Satoko too have to get killed? I don't give a shit about the past. The only thing I care about is why Rika-chan and Satoko need to be killed. Why? Why is that? I didn't say a word about Satoko, you know. Why even her? Why? A silence fell between us. Shion didn't answer for a while.
Kei-chan, please, stop being mean.
A sob. Was Shion crying?
I don't have any idea what's going on either. Everything changed when we went to the ritual storehouse at night.
It was the same for me. As I listened to Shion's bitter weeping, I could feel my agitation subsiding.
When I heard that Takano-san and Tomitake-san had been killed that night, I doubted my ears. Then, I realized it instantly. I realized what sort of position I was in now. The 4 of us stuck in there. Kei-chan, you and I wouldn't be so conveniently forgiven. When I thought about that, it made my chest so tight. I was so terrifying. You know that feeling, Kei-chan, don't you?
There was nothing fake about her words. She'd even understood how I felt.
That's why I confessed everything to Old Man Kimiyoshi.
All of us entered the forbidden storehouse. It was just a little bit of fun. We knew we shouldn't have done it, but it really had just been for fun. It was only a bit of exploration, that was all. Takano-san and Tomitake-san, who went in with us, were killed shortly afterward. They met such miserable ends. Since that day, I'd been living in fear of when I would be attacked. There was nobody except Old Man Kimiyoshi who would help me. Oh.
There's nobody except Old Man Kimiyoshi who would help me, so I asked him to save me. Old Man Kimiyoshi, he wasn't mad. He smiled and said, "If you're really sorry, Shion-chan, you'd never be demoned away." He really did smile at me and told me to leave it to him. Huh.
Shion cried bitterly, recalling the beloved mayor's death. It was such a sad voice that none who heard it could prevent it from twisting their hearts. Again, Did I let my emotions take over and go off at her? Shion was in the same situation as me. She should have been my one and only comrade. Thump. My heart pounded. My other self, deep within my mind, whispered to me, "Don't forget, Keiichi Maibara. Don't forget about the mayor." And the morning after with Tanagashi. He was told of Takano-san and Tomitake-san's deaths over the phone, and committed to a meeting that evening. He went to a hospital appointment. He didn't tell his family. He'd only made it back just in time for the meeting. He went straight to the assembly hall. That's what Oishi-san said. When did you let the mayor know?
Huh?
I'm sorry, Shion. It must seem like I'm kicking you while you're down, but... Shion, you told him, right? You told Old Man Kimiyoshi, the mayor.
Yes?
When did you let him know? I'd begun to get scared of saying it aloud after hearing her sad voice. I wasn't saying it was contradictory, though. Besides, if there was a contradiction, then I wanted Shion to explain it to me. Did you know that the mayor had a severe case of hemorrhoids and had gone to the hospital for treatment?
Kei-chan? What does that have to...
Please, answer me. If you didn't know, then just say so. There was a momentary silence. Then, after stammering a few times, she replied.
I knew that. He had hemorrhoids. It looked like sitting down was really hard for him.
He was going to the hospital. You know which hospital, right?
I'm sorry, I don't know that much, but... Kei-chan, what does that have to do with...
Shion didn't know what hospital the mayor went to. That meant it was impossible for her to have gone all the way to the hospital to confess everything. Since she didn't know his destination, then she obviously couldn't have seen him on the train either. If there was any other chance for her to contact him, it would have to have been after he came to Namizawa. The train, however, had been delayed, and only he got back right before the meeting and was about to start. He didn't have time. There wouldn't have been enough time for him to listen to Shion spill the beans. I want to ask you straight. Shion, when did you tell the mayor about everything? When and where? Your answer doesn't have to be precise, but please, just give me one.
Kei-chan, why are you asking that?
Her sob pierced into my ears. I was taken by the illusion that I was bullying her. Even so, I'll say it. If I'm wrong, then please correct me. Please, prove to me that you're the real Shion. It was impossible. The day after the mayor disappeared. From dawn until he vanished. There was no opportunity for you to contact him.
Eh? That's...
The mayor left first thing in the morning for his examination at the university hospital by himself, without telling anyone. Shion, you just said that you don't know what hospital he went to, so you couldn't have contacted the mayor until he got back. Isn't that right? His train back was delayed by an accident, and he didn't return to his house until the meeting was about to start. So there was no time for you to have told him before the meeting started either. I heard Shion repeating her weak sobs. A sort of feminine voice automatically ripped into my heart. It was so painful for me to say it. Shion, did you go to the meeting too? Did you attend it and tell him there? If you didn't, then there wouldn't have been any time left. After the meeting was over, the mayor disappeared on his way home. Shion went to the meeting, didn't she? Did she or didn't she? The question was so simple to answer, but she didn't give me an immediate response.
Actually with the meeting
You didn't even go to the part-time job you said you went to the other day. I'll say it more directly. You haven't been ever since we went to the library together.
Kei-chan, well...
Shion Sonozaki disappeared the day after Watanagashi. The other end fell silent as a grave. It was so quiet that it was like the phone cord had been cut. I couldn't sense anyone there. Oishi-san says you've been missing. Despite that, you've been calling me every night like this, haven't you? Shion's sobs were torturing me. Still, I'm pretty sure I haven't said anything wrong. Please, Shion. If something I said was wrong, please say so. Shion, I'm begging you. Shion, there's no way you could have seen the mayor, but if you did see him, if Shion ever did have the chance to meet with the mayor on that day, then that meant then you saw him after the meeting. In other words, it could have only been right before he disappeared, or else afterward. Beep. Beep. Went the dial tone. I stood there dazed for a while until I realized that she had hung up on me. Oh my god.